Hi everyone, it's Jess Riley here with a demonstration on how to use the Path Blur tool in Photoshop. So here are a series of images that I took of my sons on the beach, and it was a nice bright day and the tide had receded, leaving a lovely opportunity for reflections on the water over the sand. I also had a CPL filter over my lens, which created a stronger reflection and reduced the glare. So we can see here, this is an image where I have added the Path Blur, and this was the image before I added it. The reason why I wanted to add path blur to this image was to give it a minimalist feel to suit one of the themes that we were doing for the 52 clicks project. I thought this might make a good photo for the path blur effect because there was some interest in the sky here with some of the clouds providing a bit of contrast in colour and light, and likewise in the waves and at the bottom of the frame here. Added the path blur would smooth all of the textures here in the water, smooth all the clouds in the sky and all the ripples down here, and just draw attention to my son. And I wanted also to include his reflection in the image. Some other images I took the same day was this one, which I also added path blur to. This was the before and after. And with my older son, I decided to switch the sort of flip this image so he was coming from the left hand side, and I also added some light overlays here, which were a photograph I'd taken inside a cafe of some kind of ribbed glass with a light pouring through, and I added path blur both to the background image here and isolating my son so that he was in sharp focus, and I also added path blur to the layer that has the light. So we're going to go back to this image and watch me edit in Photoshop. So in Photoshop, I've got my background image here on the right. I'm going to press Ctrl J or Command J if you're on a Mac to create layer 1. Now I'm going up to the top menu to select, down to subject, let Photoshop work its magic. And it's done a pretty good job of selecting my subject here. I'm lucky with this image because it's the reflection and the subject here are very clear for Photoshop to select. He's got his hood up, so there's no hair flying around and things to get in the way. So what I'm going to do now is go to select, modify, and choose expand. So here I'm going to expand by 2 pixels, which will just tidy up and expand that edge a little bit, just to make sure he's included fully. If your subject wasn't quite neat, you could go make sure that you're on either the lasso tool or the selection brush tool here, and at the top menu here you can add and subtract using these functions here. I don't need to do that at the moment because my subject's looking pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is press Ctrl J or Command J to create this new subject layer over here, over the top of layer 1. Now, what I want to do now is repeat this process in layer 1. So I'm going to press the eye icon on my subject layer to hide that new layer that I created. Back in layer 1, I'm going to repeat those steps. Select, subject, select, modify, expand by 2 pixels, and click OK. For this time, I want to make sure I'm using generative fill. So in the edit menu at the top, generative fill. In the prompt box, I'm just going to leave that blank because generally it seems to do a good job of just filling in with the background content. Press generate, and in a moment we'll see the 3 options we've got to choose from. Okay, so this first option, you can see a bit of a subject sort of hazy shadow here. It doesn't really matter if you've got those sort of slight imperfections. When you add the path blur tool, they'll be blurred anyway. So we just go for one that looks like a best fit. maybe this one here. And now I'm going to press Shift, click on the generative fill layer and the layer 1, and Control or Command and E to merge those two layers. Now you can see if I click on the eye icon, my subject can appear or disappear here. So I'm going to leave my subject out of view because I want to take this image into the Path Blur tool. Before doing that, I will right click on Generative Fill Layer and convert this to a smart object. Now what that does is once we've applied the Path Blur effect, we can come back here to this layer and there'll be options underneath which we could click on to take us straight back to our edit if we wanted to tweak it any further. So now that's a smart object. We're going to the top menu, Filter, Blur Gallery, Path Blur. Once you've opened Path Blur, just make sure that at the top preview is selected so you can see your effect. Drag the left circle on the arrow to where you would like the blur to begin. I'm choosing to blur along the horizon as it's an existing line in my photograph, and drag the right arrow circle to where you would like the path blur to finish. You can add as many arrows as you want just by clicking and then dragging and clicking again. Sometimes the line goes a little bit bendy, but you can pin them by just doing a final click there. Add one to the clouds as well. So we've got a click, drag, make sure the line's straight, click and pin. So over on the right hand side, we've got the speed option here. This is your path blur. So if we drag it down to 0, we can see the image doesn't have any blur at all. We drag it all the way to the other side, it's got lots and lots of blur. So it depends on the effect you're looking for. I did want to keep a little bit of shape within the clouds and the waves, but I didn't want to lose those altogether. I did want to lose the texture, so I'm going to stick with around here. Once you're happy with that, you can click OK to go back to your layers. Okay, back in our layers view, we can see that we've got our layer 1, which is now called Generative Fill, with the Smart Filter underneath, and underneath that the Blur Gallery. So next to this Smart Filter is your mask. If you wanted to mask on or off any areas of the blur from your image. And underneath there, the Blur Gallery is the Path Blur. So if we double clicked on that Blur Gallery, it would take us straight back to our edit that we'd already done with the path blur. So if you decided you didn't want a stronger blur or you wanted a stronger blur, you can just adjust here and click OK to return to your image. The final step is to click next to the subject layer to bring the subject back into view. And the subject is really nice and sharp and the background is lovely and blurred, creating the density effect. Now at this stage, you could leave it like this and save and go back to Lightroom, or we could add an overlay, get a bit more creative. So I've got some light overlays I've made over the years. So I'm going to click on File, Place Embedded. Let's go for something like this, see what that does. Click Place. Once the new layer is in, I'm going to change it the normal to screen mode and click Enter. So right click on the layer, convert to Smart Object, up to Filter, Blur Gallery, Path Blur. We're only adding blur to the overlay this time. So drag it to where you want the overlay blur to start and drag to the finish point as well. And then we'll add the speed to taste, see which we like. I like the surreal effect that this is adding to the already dreamlike quality of the image. Think maybe somewhere in between like this. Okay, once we're happy with the image, click OK to return to our layers. So back in with our layers, and we can see there's a smart filter and a blur gallery underneath the prism light, so we could go back anytime and tweak the blur on that layer. And further down, we've still got our player gallery on our original layer as well. Hope that helps. Thanks for watching.